I'm going to go back more than 4 years. And that specific area is around helping others. It's easy to talk about performance orientation. It's easy to talk about many of the other parts, but let me focus on this one because it's not easy to do. And here I'm going to give you again a longish answer to your question because I'm going to go back in time when I realized this part. Early in my career, in my second year at GE, I had been asked to go and be the sales and marketing head for a .com in GE. This was during the .com boom. And it was a fun business. It was setting up a mortgage marketplace in the US. We had got the top 5 mortgage banks on the marketplace. We had 200 brokers on the marketplace. And everything seemed to be going really well. We just got $5 million. At that point was a big amount of funding from the parent GE company for this .com. And as we looked at certain things around how it worked, over time we realized that the technology that existed in 2001 wasn't sufficient enough to be able to tackle the complexities of how the mortgage business was done in the US. And at that point, we went to our CEO and said, you've just given us $5 million, but here is what we've learned along the way. We should not do this as a .com. Let's save that money, hold it in the parent business, which was in mortgage insurance, use that as a tool or a value-added service for our customers, and that's going to be better for the company. And the CEO looked at me and said, are you sure? Because this means that you and the team are going to be out of a job. And I said, I'd rather put myself out of a job than have you put me out of a job 6 months later. I'm not sure where I got the courage to say that at that point in time, but I did. And that evening I called one of the senior leaders in the business who didn't know me and said, look, we just had this discussion. I'm going to be looking for a new role. And he said, Anish, I don't have time. I'm rushing to the airport, but I'm back on Tuesday. Don't call anyone else. You have a job here. I don't know what it is, but you're staying here with us. Right? So I asked him, I said, you don't even know me. How did you do that? He said, I've heard a lot about you helping others across the organization, and that's what we need here. Right? So to me, that was the learning around the fact that when you help others, you're giving credit to them often for what you've done. And that's a painful process at times. But that enables something that's better for the organization, that creates a better environment, and that makes you wanted in the organization. And which is why through the years, I've always focused on that. And when I came into the Mahindra Group in 2014, the group strategy office, we actually put 20% of our KRAs for everyone as helping others. And we had folks coming in from McKinsey, BCG, Bain, all the top consulting firms. And there was always a topic of conversation saying, 20% of our KRA, everyone's so used to, I need to do ABC to be able to get to my goals and to be able to get to my performance pay. And we have L1 to L5, which is a measure of performance, where L3 is meets expectations. So we'd have these interesting discussions, and I finally got to a way to be able to articulate that well, which I would tell folks is L3, which is meets expectations, is if you can articulate, here's what I've done to help so many people, and this is how I've helped them succeed. L4 has nothing to do with you. If other people come and tell me that
you help them,
and therefore they really value what you brought, that's L4. And L5 is when we don't need to ask anyone, where you can just go to anyone and say, who do you go to when you need help anytime? And in a couple of instances in group meetings, I asked, who do you think is L5 here? Right? And 5 or 6 people shouted out the same name, because that person was always there to help everyone. And folks just knew it, saying, if I have a problem, I go to that person.
But you talked about this realization, and in the journey between sort of hoping that the realization will dawn on your leaders and working through that. I mean, you do deal with your own insecurities, you do deal with your own apprehensions and fears. What do you believe is now the relevant organizational structure? You talked about the way that you're mapping things within the group. And again, there's a lot of conversation on currently on how hierarchical organizations need to be, how lean management teams need to be, how agile and adaptable they need to be in a state of constant volatility and flux that we live in today. What do you believe is the relevant organizational structure for the future?
So I would talk about the key principles, because it's different for every organization. A key principle I would always use is to have as few layers as possible, because hierarchy often becomes something that takes away the empowerment, it takes away the agility in an organization. So fewer layers. Second is clear alignment between the organization and the priorities of the company. Third is uh, focus on value creation, not on how wide a role do you have. And that is again something very difficult for any leader to understand, because a natural tendency always is
add more.
Add more. The wider the portfolio I have, the bigger the leader I am. And that's one thing we worked very hard at Mahindra to talk to people about and say, that's not the right way to think about it. The more value you create, the bigger the leader you are. So if you want to do A and B and C and D, you may not do any of it well. But if you focus only on A, you can create a lot more value than actually doing all four. And as we think about promotions, as we think about bigger roles, we're going to look at the value you create, not about how many things you have on your plate.
Speaking of value creation, one, of course, was the aspect of getting rid of things that didn't make sense any longer. And the other was actually identifying engines of potential growth that would fortify you in the future. Take me through that journey. What was guiding the thought process at that point in time for you to say, we're going to double down on this bet?
So having spent a few years in the group strategy office, I had seen many of our businesses, and they were very strong businesses. And that's where, again, I go back to what had been built earlier was really the foundation for us to take it forward. And there have been many who told us, you've got the capital, why aren't you entering new areas? What is the next new area you're entering? There have been many such conversations. I think we've had one as well in the past.
Yes.
And I just look at our business and say there's so much potential here. We've grown organically at 25 to 30% a year for the last 5 years because our businesses have that potential. We've got what we call our growth gems that are very well positioned in the industries, and we want to put more capital behind them to be able to help them grow in multiples. So for us, it was in many ways a much easier choice, because we saw these businesses with a lot of potential and we said, let's put our shoulder behind it, let's put everything we have behind it and enable these businesses to grow. It's going to create a much better outcome for our shareholders. And it has. Our market cap is up 12x in the last 5 years. And it's a function of what we've seen from our current set of businesses growing without really any major acquisition, except for the recent one on SML, which again is going to help one of our growth gems catapult into a different league.
But, so far, as you pointed out, with the exception of the acquisition that you've just done of SML, it's largely been organic. But you're now in that wanting to take bold bets. How much of this is going to continue to be organically driven? How much of it is now likely to be inorganically driven? And I know that you're also focused much more on expanding your global footprint. How crucial is that as a priority for the group today, for Mahindra to become much more of a globally relevant brand?
So I would outline 3 specific areas. First is continue the organic growth and ideally strive for a 25 to 30% organic growth every year in our core businesses. Second is international, because having now produced products in India that are of a very high quality, we have earned the right to go international and compete internationally. And that's going to be a very important growth vector for us. It will require potentially a different set of skills, because we want to be a major player in many international markets. We do believe that we can make in India for the world. And this is one area in automotive in particular where I think India is starting to get to a place where it can become the manufacturing hub of the world. Yes, more needs to be done. We need a broader ecosystem. We need more companies to come and manufacture in India to be able to create that ecosystem. But as we do that, we will get more cost competitive. We have the quality today, and that will allow us to manufacture for the world, not just for us, but for every player that's in India, including the foreign players who come in.
So what is the timeline that you've set for yourself as far as this international aspiration is concerned? What are the benchmarks that you're setting for the team in terms of what they need to deliver on to continue to kind of gather momentum, and at what pace?
So, given the history of the group, I have a little more luxury in saying that we are building a business for the next 20 years. So, my timeline is the next 20 years and what we need to build. At the same time, we have to deliver results in the short term as well. So, we look at it as what are the set of markets we would focus on right now in the next year, in the next 3 years, next 5 years. Our immediate focus is on Australia, South Africa, and Chile. Three markets that we have been present in for some time. We have 10% share in one of the segments in one of the markets now, 5% in the other. And we want to try to get to 15% in all three. As we do that, we will then select the next set of markets that we go after and the next set after that. So for us, it is a long-term time horizon, but at the same time, one that we would look at each step as an important one and being able to deliver on each step, creating that foundation, moving on to the next one.
How do you believe that you've evolved and changed as a leader? Where do you believe you find yourself on the spectrum of leadership today? And what is it that you would like to see you change about your own leadership style?
I would say, Shireen, a very significant evolution. There have been lots of things that I have not been good at.
And, like what?
So I'll share feedback that one of my managers at Bain gave me very early. And this was literally in the first 3 months of my joining Bain after Carnegie Mellon in Boston. We'd gone to a client meeting somewhere in Ohio, and we were driving back to the airport, or I was driving, and my manager looks at me and says, "Anish, you add no value in meetings." So I was trying hard to focus on driving and not on what he was saying. But I asked him, I said, "Why do you say that?" He said, "You don't say anything in meetings. So you may know a lot, but if you don't say anything, you don't add value." And he said, "Let me give you one tip. Use the whiteboard. Stand up and put your thoughts on the whiteboard. It takes the attention to you. You're good at structured thoughts, and you will set your structure there. That will allow you to be able to share what you want to share, and that way you will add value in meetings." I said, "That's a great suggestion." I still get up and use a whiteboard on lots of occasions. That just has become a habit. But that enabled me to come in there and be able to add value. There were many such things over time that I've been fortunate to have leaders and managers tell me that, "Look, you're not good at this." Today, I'm fortunate to have a number of folks on my team that will tell me that, you're not doing this well. And
people in your team tell you you're not doing this well?
Yes.
When was the last time this happened?
So a few months ago, someone came and told me, I said, "Anish, when you send us messages on email versus you talking to us in person, there's a very different tone to it." Because on email, often it comes across as very impersonal and cold. But when you have the same discussion in person, it's a very different tone to it. So, either do more in person or improve the tone on the email. I found that to be a very useful suggestion. Right? But that to me is important for a leader, to have that environment where people can come and tell you that you need to improve on this. And it's a journey for every person. If I put the list of things I wasn't good at, you'd look at it and say, "How did he ever become a CEO?" But it's about the openness to accepting that, and then having the courage to say that, "Yes, that you're right. I am bad at this, and I need to change."
How did you check your ego at the door? Because it's not easy, and it's certainly not easy when you're operating in a position of power for somebody to tell you that you're not doing something right. Egos get in the way. How did you find the grace, the humility, and the acceptance?
I think those are big words, grace and humility. I look at it more as, if there's a job to be done for the company and that's what you put first, you have to do it in the best way that you can. And to be a better person, to be a better leader, you need to be able to get that feedback and have the courage to be able to address it. And this is something, again, maybe there is an element of the US culture that comes in, which is very direct, that helped me learn this early on. I saw myself improving, and I valued getting that feedback before it was appraisal time or promotion time, because then it's okay, you haven't got this promotion because you're not good at this, right? I'd rather get it up front and address it so that by that time that is addressed, right? I've been in a situation again many years ago where my team had feedback that said that you know you don't like some of these things that you do. So I actually got all the team together, got a whiteboard again, and said,
again, a whiteboard.
yes. And I said, look, I've written down a few things that I've heard from you that I don't like. So I want to talk about this a little more. I want to understand, what I should do differently.
As you look at what's happening today, I mean, the transformative pace of technology changing, AI, what are you fearful of? And what do you feel confident of embracing today? I mean, everyone's talking about what this wave of disruption is going to mean as far as organizations are concerned. Will you be relevant? Will you no longer be relevant? As you look at this, are you being driven out of a sense of fear, or are you being driven out of a sense of purpose and relevance?
I see opportunity. This is time for us to get in and establish tech leadership, uh, do more with customers, do more with the products we can create. And for me, this is an exciting time. Any time of change is a time of huge opportunity.
Mm. So, in an AI world, I mean, how much of that is already a reality at the Mahindra Group? How much of it do you believe you will need to invest in, both in terms of bandwidth and resources, to make yourself future proof?
So I'll tell you what we've done and what we still have to do. We have a far way to go, but what we have done is first instilled in every leader that they have to be a tech leader.
Mm.
If you are not a tech leader, you can't be a business leader. You can't rely on your CTO to say, here's what you should do from a tech standpoint. Every leader should understand technology. Second is each of our top 100 leaders has one project that they've got to work on for AI. That's in their organization, an idea that they have, and they've got to show results from there. Third is we've taken teams from across all our businesses and in some ways tweaked our federation model in this particular area and said there'll be one common team that looks at AI across the group, because there will be lots of lessons that we will have from across the group. And that has to focus on delivering results. And then fourth is skilling for AI. So these are the 4 areas that we've done.
How tech savvy are you today?
I'd say reasonably high. But I've always believed that technology is going to be important. As part of my PhD, I had mentioned to you offline, I'd created this network lab environment where we had 30 computers connected for a game that was a stock exchange game with CEOs, stock market traders, and directors in the game. And this was in the early 90s, and I literally took a book and learned how to code, and spent nights coding.
To understand the world, you need the truth.
This is the largest measles outbreak in 30 years.
Why we follow the facts, wherever they lead, no matter how far we have to go. From the inside story
President Trump is serious about the threats that he's making.
to an outside perspective, to deep in the data, ready for whatever may come.
We've got to get out of the way. There's an incoming strike.
We witness the world, face our fears. Their lives now are forever changed, and find wonder.
자, 하나둘. 10시 5분 전인데 시작을 한번 해보죠. 아마 바람 소리가 좀 들릴 수 있을 것 같아요. 선풍기를 좀 켜놨기 때문에 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. (2025년 7월 9일) 미국 증시 라이브 시작해 보도록 하겠습니다. 다우존스 산업평균 지수 아마 상승으로 출발을 했을 가능성이 높다라고 보고 있습니다. 그 이유는 일단은 나스닥 선물과 S&P 500 선물 지수가 한 0.2% 정도 상승을 했기 때문에 다우존스 산업평균 지수도 역시 상승으로 출발을 했을 것으로 예상을 하고 있고요. 나스닥 지금 0.03% 상승으로 마감을 했는데 지금 기준으로 0.2% 상승을 하게 되면서 아마 신고가까지는 상승 여력이 있을 것이다라고 생각을 하고 있고요. 이전에 고점이 지지가 되는 모습이 나타나고 있기 때문에 현재 추세로만 본다라고 한다면 2만 150포인트? 여기만 이탈하지 않으면 흐름 살아있다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그 다음에 S&P 500 역시 비슷한 흐름이 이어질 가능성이 높다라고 보고 있는데 전 고점을 돌파를 했죠. 그리고 상승 추세가 이어지고 있는 모습을 보여주고 있습니다. 현 기준으로는 6150포인트를 이탈하지 않으면 시장 자체는 상승 여력이 지속적으로 있을 가능성이 있다는 것 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고요. 앞서 언급을 해드렸던 대로 미국의 나스닥 지수는 0.2에서 0.8%까지 0.28이죠. 상승으로 움직이고 있는 모습이었고 차트를 통해서 오늘 보유하고 있는 종목들 혹은 주가가 올라가고 있는 종목들을 체크를 해보도록 하겠습니다. 엔비디아가 오늘 상승을 조금 하고 있습니다. 0.56% 상승을 하고 있는 모습인데 거의 이제 4조 달러에 육박하겠죠. 그렇죠? 그리고 이전의 고점까지 뛰어넘고 그 고점이 지지가 되는 모습이 나타나고 있기 때문에 엔비디아의 경우는 153달러만 이탈하지 않으면 주가는 상승이 이어질 가능성이 높다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그다음에 마이크로소프트도 역시 신고가가 지속적으로 좀 이어지고 있는 모습을 보여주고 있고요. 아마존 올라가다가 조정을 좀 받아주고 있는데 아마존 프라임데이에 대한 기대감이 있죠. 그런데 알파벳이네요. 제가 혼동을 좀 했네요. 오늘 나온 뉴스는 아마 이쪽으로는 없어요. 이쪽으로는 없고, 중요한 건 지금 저항으로 형성이 되어 있는 가격이 182에서 3달러? 그래서 이 흐름은 이어질 가능성이 높다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고, 저점으로 쭉 연결을 해보게 되면 상승과 하락을 계속적으로 반복을 하고 있는 모습을 보여주고 있습니다. 이전에 고점을 돌파를 해야지만 추가적인 상승이 이어질 가능성이 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고요. 앞서 아마존에 대한 얘기를 했는데 프라임데이를 진행을 하고 있죠. 그런데 뭐 어제까지는 긍정적일 것이다라고 얘기를 했음에도 불구하고 오늘은 분위기가 조금 바뀌었어요. 그렇게 뭐 많이 팔리지는 않을 것 같다. 근데 이거는 사실은 시장 자체를 지금 얘기를 하고 있는 겁니다. 시장 자체를. 2025년 프라임데이는 총 4일간 진행이 되는데 2024년보다 2배 길어진 기간이죠. 그래서 전년 대비 실적 비교는 어려울 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 그런데 이번 프라임데이에서 매출이 기대치를 하회하게 되면 소비 둔화에 대한 우려가 커질 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 물론 이 아마존의 프라임데이가 미국 소비 지출을 대표한다고 보기에는 어렵지만 뭐 월마트나 타켓, 베스트바이 등 주요 업체들도 역시 동시다발적으로 할인 행사를 진행을 하고 있죠. 그런데 미국 소비가 둔화가 되고 있다라는 징후가 나오고 있기 때문에 지금 이번 실적이 어떻게 되냐에 따라서 미국 소매 지표 혹은 소비 지표 이런 부분이 둔화가 될 가능성이 있다라고 보고 있고요. 그렇다라고 하면 당연히 충격이 다가올 수밖에 없다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그래서 아마존 여기를 그냥 체크를 하가면서 볼게요. 아마존. 그리고 또 뉴스가 하나가 나온 게 요거네요. 번스타인은 아마존의 인공지능 사업 성장세에 따라서 목표 주가를 기존 230달러에서 235달러로 상향 조정한다라고 얘기를 했고요. 아마존 웹 서비스의 1분기 기준 전년 동기 대비 이거 옛날 것 같은데? 그렇죠? 다음 내용이 있어야 되는데 이 내용은 아니네요. 제가 M7만 따로 위로 빼놓기 때문에 아마 M7 관련된 종목을 얘기를 하면 나오는 것 같긴 한데 일단은 추세는 지속적으로 살아있는 모습을 보여주고 있고요. 지금 단기적인 흐름을 확인을 봤을 때 최근에 저점이었던 218달러만 이탈하지 않으면 상승 추세에 이어질 가능성이 높다라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 제 메타 플랫폼스는 어제 이슈가 좀 나왔다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 뭐 오늘도 이슈가 2개 정도 나왔어요. 모닝스타에서 메타 플랫폼스와 알파벳이 광고 수익에서 견조한 성장을 지속을 하고 있는데 일부 약한 신호도 나오고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 뭐 두 기업 모두 최근 1분기 동안 기록적으로 낮은 애드 볼륨, 이게 노출된 광고의 수래요. 그래서 증가율을 발표를 했는데 알파벳사나 구글의 유료 검색 링크 클릭과 메타의 광고 노출 수치에서 뭐 두 기업 모두 일부 약화되는 모습이 나타났다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 그 다음에도 뉴스가 하나가 더 나온 걸로 알고 있는데 메타라고 그냥 검색을 하는 게 빠를 것 같네요. 오늘 나온 뉴스를 제가 다 정리를 해놨습니다. 로스캐피탈에서는 투자 의견을 매수를 유지를 했고 목표 주가를 620달러에서 740달러 상향 조정을 했는데 여기에서도 역시 다른 모습을 좀 얘기를 하고 있네요. 광고 업황 전반에 대해서 긍정적인 시각은 유지를 하고 있는데 거시경제와 관세 환경의 불확실성이 완화되고 있다는 점이 이미 주가에 반영이 되어 있다고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 현재 프리미엄 밸류에이션에서 거래가 되고 있어서 올해 들어서 AI 실행량은 뭐 다소 모호했는데 향후 제품 로드맵과 3분기 가이던스에 포함될 와치 앱 수익화 진전 여부가 주가의 상승 동력이 될 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 웰스파고도 역시 투자 의견을 비중 확대로 유지를 했고 목표 주가를 644달러에서 783달러로 상향 조정을 했습니다. 그러면서 견조한 펀더멘탈에 대한 얘기를 좀 했는데 실적 추정치를 상향 조정을 했고요. 최근에 일시적인 관세 유예 조치와 함께 건강한 광고 수요가 뒷받침되고 있다. 또한 메타의 경영진이 AI 투자 분야에 있어 단호한 결정을 내렸고 시장은 이러한 투자를 긍정적으로 받아들이고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 근데 뭐 역사적인 시인 고점을 돌파를 하는 모습이 나타났고요. 전 고점으로 형성되어 있는 가격이 710달러죠. 그래서 710달러만 이탈하지 않으면 뭐 상승 추세는 지속 이어질 가능성이 높다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그리고 순차적으로 보고요. 시장 상황에 대해서 그냥 얘기를 해드리는 게 조금 더 혼동이 안 올 수도 있어서요. 순서대로 좀 보도록 하겠습니다. 버티볼딩스가 실적이 2025년에 실적이 작년 대비해서 2배 정도 좋아지고요. 2분기, 3분기도 역시 전분기 대비해서 증가할 가능성이 높다. 이렇게 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 일단 멜리어스 리서치에선 버티브의 인프라 솔루션에 대한 수요가 강력하고 장기적으로는 애프터마켓 솔루션 사업도 확보하게 될 것이다 라고 얘기를 하면서 투자 의견을 보유해서 매수로 상향 조정을 했고요. 목표 주가도 165달러로 상향 조정을 했는데 실적만 본다라고 한다면 작년에 고점을 뛰어넘을 가능성이 있다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 다만 제 관점에서는 실적이 아무리 좋다라고 하더라도 단기적인 관점으로만 저는 접근을 해야 된다라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 상승 추세가 지속적으로 유지가 되고 있는 모습은 보여주고는 있죠. 고점과 저점이 상승을 하면서 주가가 올라가는 모습은 보여주고는 있는데 이런 관점에서 본다라고 하면 이전 고점 부근에서 조정을 좀 받아주는 모습이었고 지지가 나오고 있습니다. 지금 기준으로 제 기준으로 말씀드릴게요. 123달러 이탈하지 않으면 전 고점 돌파할 가능성이 있다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고요. 단기적인 매매를 하시는 분들은 145달러가 저항이라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 세부적으로 좀 더 보게 되면 인공지능 기술에 대한 투자가 확대가 되고 있고 이는 대표적인 데이터 센터 인프라 업체인 버티브의 중요한 수혜 요인이 될 것이다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 동시에 버티브에 대해서 제기가 되었던 자본 지출 감소 리스크는 완화가 되고 있고 버티브는 인공지능 시스템을 구축하기 위해 필수적인 인프라를 제공하는 기업으로서 막대한 수요가 장기간 인프라 공급 부족 문제를 야기할 것으로 예상이 되고 있고 이로부터 수익을 올리기에 유리한 위치에 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 지금까지 버티브는 타 기업들의 자본 지출에 의존해야 하는 기업이었는데 2, 3년 뒤부터는 애프터마켓 솔루션을 제공하게 되면서 자본 지출 의존은 낮아지고 안정적인 연간 수익을 창출하는 기업으로 변모를 할 것이다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 뭐 상승 추세가 유지가 되고 있는 만큼 홀딩하셔도 괜찮을 것 같은데 이 점도 하나 좀 체크를 해주시면 좋을 것 같아요. 이전에 상승하는 폭을 보게 되면 경사가 좀 급했죠. 그런데 이 경사가 최근 들어서 좀 완화가 되고 있다는 것도 생각을 해볼 만한 내용이다라고 생각을 하시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 기술적으로 보게 되면 뭐 중장기적으로 볼 수는 있겠지만 저는 120달러까지는 버티셔도 상관이 없을 거라고 보고 있고 보수적으로는 123달러입니다. 그리고 언급을 해드렸던 대로 전 고점 부근이었던 146달러는 단기적인 저항이 될 가능성이 있고 그 흐름만 유지가 되게 되면 추세적으로 상승 추세는 이어질 것이다라고 보고 있습니다. 자, 그 다음에 인공지능 클라우드 기업 코어위브에 대해서 요즘에 시각이 굉장히 좀 다른 모습을 보여주고 있더라고요. 이미 뭐 주가에 많이 반영이 되었다라는 내용도 있고요. 아니다, 더 상승할 것이다 라는 의견도 있습니다. 그런데 미조증권에선 코어위브의 투자 의견을 매수해서 보유로 하향 조정을 했고요. 목표 주가는 150달러에서 현재 전일 종가였죠. 전일 종가보다 낮게 제시를 했습니다. 역시 장기적으로는 긍정적이지만 현재 위험 대비 보상 비율이 불균형하다라고 설명을 했습니다. 그리고 스티펠 파이낸셜도 코어위브의 투자 의견을 보유로 낮췄고요. 목표 주가를 115달러로 내려잡았습니다. 여기에서는 데이터 센터 인프라 기업 사이언티픽을 약 90달러에 인수한다라고 발표를 했었는데 그에 대한 내용으로 AI 및 고성능 컴퓨팅 인프라 확장 전략은 긍정적이라고 보고는 있지만 수직 통합형 데이터 센터 기업으로서 제 포지셔닝은 밸류에이션 구조 변화를 의미한다라고 하면서 이미 적정 수준에 도달했다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 그 외에 시티그룹도 단기 하방 요인 경계 의견을 제시를 하게 되면서 목표 주가를 160달러로 제시를 좀 했는데 인수에 대해서는 코어 사이언티픽 주식을 현재 30% 할인된 가격에 투자자들이 매수할 수 있고 이는 단기적으로 코어위브 주가에 하락 압력을 있을 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 제 관점으로 말씀을 해드리자면 144달러까지는 흐름을 괜찮다라고 볼 수가 있을 것 같아요. 주가가 이전부터 상승을 꾸준하게 유지를 해왔다가 조정을 받아주고요. 상승을 하고 조정을 받아주고 상승을 하고 조정을 받고 지금 전 고점에서 이탈하는 모습이 나타났었는데 그 가격이 166달러로 볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 제가 타이트하게는 144달러를 제시를 좀 해드리지만 러프하게는 135달러까지 조정을 받아도 추세는 깨지지 않는다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고요. 135달러 부근되게 되면 단기 매매 타이밍은 한번 나올 가능성도 있다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 그 다음에 플러그 파워에 대한 내용을 좀 언급을 해드리도록 하겠는데 플러그 파워는 실적이 그렇게 좋지는 않습니다. 그런데 로스캐피탈은 플러그 파워의 감세한 수혜를 강조를 하게 되면서 투자 의견을 매수, 목표 주가를 3.5달러로 현재 대비해서 거의 100% 성장 얘기를 하고 있죠. 근데 차트상으로 보게 되면 3.5달러보다는 3.4달러 정도 혹은 3.3달러 정도가 저항으로 형성이 되어 있다는 거 확인해 볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 최근에 급등이 나왔는데 이전에 저항 부근을 지금 돌파를 하지 못하고 있는 모습입니다. 그러면 추세는 지금 단기적으로는 상승이 맞아요. 상승이 맞다라는 말씀 드리도록 하겠고요. 다만 신규 매수나 혹은 관심이 있으신 분들은 1.5달러를 돌파를 해야지만 상승 추세가 지속이 된다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그래서 시장이 상승을 하고 조정을 받고 상승을 하려고 하는데 힘이 부족하기 때문에 이 저항을 돌파를 하지 못하는 모습이긴 한데 이 BBB의 중요한 수혜주로 주목을 받고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 세액공제 30% 전부 다 받을 수 있다. 탄소 배출 제로 요건이나 부품 원산지 요건이 제외된 점도 긍정적이다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 어떻게 됐든 1.5달러를 돌파를 하게 되면 그 다음에 조금 더 봐도 상관은 없을 것 같은데 1.8달러 부근까지는 올라올 가능성이 있고요. 1.8달러 부근이 또 단기적인 저항으로 형성이 되어 있습니다. 그리고 올라가게 되면 그 다음에는 2.3달러 수준까지는 올라올 가능성이 있고요. 그 다음에 3.3달러까지 상승 여력이 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 그 다음에 GV 7월 23일 날 2분기 실적을 발표할 것으로 예상을 하고 있는데 실적이 좋아진다라고 하더라도 저는 주가가 높으면 관심 종목에서는 제외를 하고 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고요. BMO 캐피탈에서 이 G 베누로바에 대해서 서비스 사업 확충이 밸류에이션 확장에 기여할 수 있을 것이다라고 하면서 투자 의견은 아웃퍼폼으로 유지, 목표 주가를 520달러에서 590달러로 상향 조정을 했습니다. 베르노바는 서비스 사업을 확충하고 있고요. 이를 통해서 2025년 말 약 800억 달러로 기대되는 서비스 관련 매출 기회에 대한 가시성이 향상이 될 것이다 라고 얘기를 했습니다. 또한 서비스 사업은 가스터빈 수요 변동폭으로 보호를 받고 있기 때문에 더욱 중요하다고 강조를 했고, 안정적인 매출을 확보는 GE 베르노바의 밸류에이션 확장에 기여할 것이다 라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 또한 전통적 에너지와 청정 에너지 양쪽에 모두 사업을 하고 있죠. 그렇기 때문에 글로벌 각지에서 영위하는 대규모 기업으로서 독특한 위치에 점유하고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 주가는 상승이 지속적으로 이어지고 있는 모습이죠. 이전에 저항으로 형성이 되었던 가격이 $500 부근이었는데 조정을 받아주고 올라왔다가 $500를 살짝 하회하는 모습이 나타나기도 했습니다만, 다시 한번 전 고점을 돌파를 하게 되면서 올라가고 있다는 것 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고요. 그리고 애플에 대해서 얘기를 했는데 투자 의견을 중립으로 하향 조정을 했습니다. 일단 실적은 이번 달 말에 실적이 발표가 되는데 키뱅크에서 투자 의견을 중립으로 유지를 했고요. 목표 주가는 제시하지 않았습니다. 아이폰 가격이 관세로 인해서 인상될 것이다라는 우려로 인해서 소비자들이 사전 구매에 나섰죠. 그런데 애플의 인공지능 기능이 기대에 못 미치게 되면서 아이폰 16에 대한 수요가 둔화되고 있습니다. 6월 아이폰 판매가 전년 대비 6% 감소를 했고 전달 대비로도 통상적인 계절 흐름에 하회를 했습니다. 이미 관세에 대한 우려로 앞서 언급을 해드렸던 사전 구매 때문에 지속이 될 수는 없었다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고요. 결국은 AI에 대한 이벤트가 어떻게 진행이 되냐에 따라서 애플의 주가도 다시 한번 움직일 가능성이 있다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 지금 중요한 건 $220가 강한 저항으로 형성이 되어 있다라는 걸 확인을 해볼 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 그리고 하락하는 이 추세 있죠? 이 추세. 이게 저항이 지금 두 개가 있는 거거든요. 저항이. 그러면 $220까지만 지금은 보셔야 된다라는 걸 말씀을 해드리도록 하겠습니다. 그리고 지금 $209 부근이 지지선으로 작용을 하고 있는 모습인데 여기에서 치고 올라가지 못하게 되면 저는 $195 전후가 그래도 매수하기 좋은 타이밍이 아닐까 이런 생각을 해볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 그 다음에 허니웰 분할 얘기가 나왔던 기업이다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고요. 실적도 긍정적으로 나오는 모습입니다. 다만 역사적인 고점을 거의 다 왔고요. 중요한 거는 더 올라갈 가능성도 저는 있다라고 보고 있습니다. 단 $237를 이탈하지 않는다면요. 자, 그 다음에 물류사업 매각을 검토 중이다라고 얘기를 하고 있는데 운수창고 및 물류시장에 서비스를 제공하는 생산성 솔루션 및 서비스, 창고 및 워크플로우 솔루션, 물류시장에 대한 전략적 대안을 평가하고 있고 이는 분할하기 전에 운영을 간소화하려는 계획의 일환으로서 자동화 전담 기업, 우주항공 담당 기업, 그 다음에 첨단 소재 담당 기업 등 3개의 기업으로 분할할 계획을 발표를 했습니다. 그러면 가장 이슈가 되고 있는 건 자동화 전담 기업이 가장 이슈가 될 수밖에 없겠죠. 일단은 실적이 좋다라고 하더라도 말씀을 드렸던 대로 주가가 많이 올라왔으면 제 관점에서는 역시 아니다라는 얘기를 해드리고 싶고요. 캐터필러에 대한 얘기가 나왔습니다. 이게 감세 재정지출 초대형 법안의 핵심 수혜주라고 얘기를 했는데 이만큼 올랐으면 이미 주가에 거의 다 반영이 된 게 아닌가 이런 생각을 좀 해볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 지금 세제 혜택이 세계 최대의 건설, 광산, 엔지니어링 장비 제조업체인 캐터필러에 유리하다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 국내 세제 개편으로 인프라 투자 확대 제조 R&D, 인센티브, 100% 보너스, 감가상각 등 조합은 건설 장비 수요를 촉진시키는 요인으로 볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 청정에너지 세액공제 축소 역시 대형 엔진, 터빈 제품 경쟁력을 부각시킨다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 그리고 국경 인프라 및 국방 관련 건설 지출들 포함을 해서 1,035억 달러 이상을 건설 부분에 배정을 하고 있고, 국경 장벽 관련 지출 역시 465억 달러, 성인 단독 구급 및 가족 거주시설 450억 달러 등도 포함되면서 이거를 할 수 있는 기업들이 몇 개가 있겠죠. 그 안에서 캐터필러가 포함이 되어 있어서 뭐 수혜가 될 것이다라고 얘기가 나오고 있는 모습이고요. 그 다음에 웰스파고에서 실적 좋은 종목들, 투자 의견을 상향 조정한 종목들의 주가를 확인을 해보게 되면 이미 많이 올랐다라는 걸 확인을 해볼 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 어떻게 됐든 미국 주식은 조정을 받았을 때 매수를 하거나 아니면 실적이 좋아지는 종목이 덜 올랐을 때 매수를 하는 게 저는 뭐 맞다라고 보고 있습니다. 그런데 KLA 주가 바닥이고요. 높고요. 그 다음에 ASML 목표주가 상향 조정을 하는 모습이었는데 그래도 흐름은 괜찮은 모습을 보여주고 있습니다. 근데 $1,000 주가 살 수 있을까요? 뭐 살 수 있으신 분들도 있겠죠. 그래서 실적까지 확인을 해보게 되면 올해 2025년의 실적도 뭐 긍정적으로 보이고 있습니다. 내년에도 긍정적으로 보이는데 중요한 건 2분기 실적은 떨어질 것으로 예상을 하고 있죠. EPS도 역시 동일한 사항이고, 그렇다라고 한다면 당연히 2분기에 실적이 이것보다 안 좋다라고 하면 $700 부분까지는 떨어질 가능성 저는 있다라고 보고 있습니다. 그래서 그때 매매를 하는 게 맞지 않을까, 이런 말씀을 좀 드리고 싶고요. 그 다음에 어플라이드 머티리얼 어리얼즈 주가는 상승 여력이 더 있다라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 제가 생각하는 건 25% 정도 성장 가능성이 있다라고 보고 있는데 그 이유는 역시 실적에 있다, 이렇게 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 작년보다 실적이 좋지는 않죠. 작년이 7177이었는데 이번에 7112니까 좋지는 않고요. 그 다음에 7월 달에 만료가 되는 뭐 3분기 실적도 좋아지지 않고 10월 달도 역시 좋아지지 않네요. 그런데 기대감만으로도 충분히 상승 여력이 있다라고 보고 있고, 이렇게 실적이 조금씩 줄어든다라고 하면 주가가 많이 올라간다라고 하더라도 저는 $210 혹은 $213 이 부분대까지는 상승 여력이 있다라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 자, 그 다음에 MKS 인스트루먼츠 $85에서 $100로 상향 조정을 했는데 이거는 저는 관심 종목으로 이렇게 포함을 해놨습니다. 밑에 보시면 2025 2Q, 3Q 이렇게 적혀 있는데 2025년이 2024년에 비해서 실적이 좋고요. 그 다음에 2분기, 3분기도 좋죠. 다만 2026년이 2022년 이후에 사상 최대의 실적을 거두는 거기 때문에 이런 기준으로만 본다라고 하면 내년에는 적어도 $125는 돌파를 해야 된다라고 보고 있습니다. 그래서 $100로 상향된 것도 저는 뭐 맞다라고 보고 있고요. 다만 현재 기준으로 확인을 해 보시게 되면 이전에 $98 부근이 지지선으로 계속 좀 작용을 했던 가격이었다라고 보시면 될 것 같고요. 최근에 들어서도 주가가 상승을 했다가 조정을 뭐 살짝 받기는 했지만 그 가격에서 반등이 나오는 모습을 보여주었고요. 이렇게 보게 되면 $98 이탈하지 않으면 저의 관점에서는 정말 보수적으로 그냥 $123까지 끌고 가는 전략이 맞을 것 같다라는 말씀 드리도록 하겠습니다. 그 다음에 노브노디스크에 대한 얘기를 하고 있는데 위고비의 용량을 조금 높였나 봐요. 그것 때문에 새로운 제품을 출시를 한다. 그리고 승인 신청을 제출했다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 노보노디스크는 2분기 실적은 좋을 것으로 보이지는 않아요. 다만 3분기 실적이 좋을 것으로 예상이 되고 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같고, 실적적인 측면으로 보게 되면 순이익 기준으로 계속 늘어나는 모습 보여주고 있죠. 그런데 앞서 언급을 해드렸던 대로 순이익이 4096에서 4038로 떨어지고요. 다만 3분기에는 껑충 10% 정도 상승 여력이 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 뭐 이런 관점으로 봤을 때 만약에 실적이 좋지 않다, 그거에 대해서 주가가 반영이 된다라고 가정을 하게 되면 저는 65달러 이하로 매수하는 것도 괜찮을 것 같다라고 보고 있고요. 65달러부터 시작을 해서 저는 단기적으로는 3분기 실적이 긍정적으로 나올 가능성이 높기 때문에 뭐 80달러까지는 봐도 무난하지 않을까? 이렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그리고 오래클에 대한 얘기가 나왔네요. 제프리스에서 오라클에 대해서 투자 의견을 매수로 유지를 했고요. 목표 주가를 220달러에서 270달러로 상향 조정을 했는데, 이거는 보유하고 있는 사람 영역이라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 아니면 중장기로 진짜 뭐 들고 갈 만한 종목이라고 보면 되는데, 그 외에는 저는 제 관심 종목은 아닙니다. 다만 오라클은 지난주에 1년의 클라우드 서비스 전환 계획을 발표를 했고요. 이 중에 핵심 계약은 2028년부터 연간 300억 달러 이상을 창출할 것으로 예상이 되고 있습니다. 고객사는 공개되지 않았는데 뭐 오픈 AI와 협력을 하고 스타게이트 프로젝트를 통해서 체결된 것으로 얘기가 되고 있습니다. 이번 계약 하나로만으로도 2028년에 매출 예상치 65%, 총 매출 예상치의 3분의 1을 차지할 수 있을 것이다 라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 실적 자체는 되게 좋아지는 모습 보여주고 있죠. 근데 이거는 이때 매수를 했어야죠. 120달러. 근데 이때 뭐 살 수 있으신 분도 거의 없죠. 자, 그 다음에 우버 테크놀로지에 대한 얘기가 뱅크 오브 아메리카에서 나왔습니다. 주가는 뭐 신고가를 계속적으로 좀 이어가고 있는 모습이고요. 미 의회를 통과한 빅 뷰티풀 빌에 포함된 팁 소득 비과세 조항의 수혜를 입을 것이다라고 하면서 투자 의견을 매수로 유지, 목표 주가는 기존 대비 상향 조정한 115달러로 제시를 했습니다. 운전자 공급 증가라는 만만한 긍정 효과를 가져올 수 있고, 우버의 수수료 수치율을 간접적으로 지원할 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 또한 예약 증가세가 가속화되고 있다는 점도 긍정적인 신호다라고 얘기를 하고 있는데, 모빌리티 요금이 안정적인 가운데 전반적인 성장세가 이어지고 있다는 것도 긍정적이다라고 볼 수가 있을 것 같죠. 자, 그 다음에 WNS 뭐 갭상승을 하고 횡보를 하고 있는 모습이네요. 프랑스 컨설팅 IT 대기업 캡제미니의 인수 발표로 인해서 급등을 하고 횡보를 하고 있는 모습인데, 뭐 오늘은 소폭 약세가 이어지고 있는 모습이고요. 주당 76.5달러의 현금 거래로 이루어진다라고 얘기를 했으니까 뭐 이거는 주가 거의 다 왔다라고 볼 수가 있겠죠. 그 다음에 인페이지 에너지에 대한 내용이 TD코원에서 나왔는데, 태양광주는 악재죠 뭐. 그렇게밖에 볼 수 없죠. 실적은 좋아지는데 이게 주가가 혹은 이 관세에 대한 부분 혹은 세제 혜택 폐지에 대한 부분이 포함되어 있는지가 궁금합니다. 일단 뭐 직접적인 타격을 입을 것이다라고 경고를 했고요. 그래서 투자 의견을 매수해서 보유로 목표 주가를 58달러에서 45달러로 하향 조정을 했습니다. 이 인페이지 에너지의 프리미엄 제품들은 고객이 태양광 부품을 소유하는 사업 모델을 기반으로 판매가 되고 있기 때문에 직접적인 타격을 받을 수 있을 것이다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 또한 배터리셀을 중국에서 수입하고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있죠. 당연히 악재이죠. 이거는 당연히 당연히 악재일 수밖에 없다. 그다음에 속도를 조금만 더 올리도록 하겠습니다. 지금 아날로그와 자동차용 반도체에 대한 내용이 나오고 있는데 실적을 제가 다 확인을 해봤는데 뭐 주가가 올라갔든 실적이 안 좋든 뭐 그 내용이 포함이 되어 있습니다. 뭐 실적이 턴 어라운드 되고 2024년 내년 기준으로 보면 주가가 현저하게 지금 떨어져 있고요. 2분기 적자 축소, 3분기 흑자 전환. 그러면 이미 주가에 거의 다 반영이 되어 있다라고 보고 있습니다. 그래서 이 모빌리티 시장에 뭐 2025년과 하반기 견조한 성장세를 보여줄 것이다라고 얘기를 하고 있고요. 인공지능 인프라 성장세가 매우 강력한 가운데 알레그로의 전력관리 반도체가 주목을 받을 가능성이 있다라고 하면서 아웃퍼폼 제시 목표 주가는 31달러에서 37달러까지 상향 조정을 했습니다. 그 다음에 TXN도 역시 뭐 단기적으로 실적이 턴 어라운드 한다라고 가정을 하게 되면 매수해도 상관은 없습니다만 전체적인 실적까지 확인을 해보게 되면 저는 뭐 그렇게 긍정적이지는 않을 것 같다라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 주가는 뭐 역사적 고점 부근이었던 220달러까지 거의 다 상승을 했고요. 마이크로칩 테크놀로지 확인을 해보게 되면 100달러까지 올라갈 수 있는 힘은 결국은 실적이다라고 봐요. 우리가 어떤 호재 뉴스가 나오게 되면 결국 그게 실적으로 반영될 것이다라는 기대감 때문에 주가가 올라가는 거잖아요. 그런데 지금 하반기 실적에 대한 기대감이 있음에도 불구하고 적자가 유지가 되고 있는 종목들은 저는 그렇게 땡기지는 않습니다. 개인적으로. 그런데 뭐 상승 추세는 유지가 되고 있고 중요한 거는 93달러까지는 뭐 상승 여력이 있다라는 것도 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 그 다음에 모빌 I에 대한 내용이 나오고 있습니다. 자율주행에 대한 이슈가 나오는 거죠. 그런데 주가는 바닥인데 실적이 아마 적자가 유지가 됐던 걸로 기억을 하고 있습니다. 적자 유지가 되고 있죠. 흑자 언제 될지는 모르겠고요. 그렇기 때문에 주가가 못 올라가는 거예요. 자, 미주는 목표 주가를 15달러에서 18달러로 상향 조정을 했고요. 지금 가격이네요. 뭐 우버 테크놀로지와 리프트와 협력을 하고 있고 이번 제휴는 로보택시 시장의 정착과 함께 2026년 하반기 성장세를 촉진하는 요인이 될 수 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 그 다음에 IBM, UBS에서 IBM의 하드웨어 사업에 대한 호조를 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 뭐 주가가 그만큼 갈 수밖에 없는 요인이죠. 채트로만 좀 확인을 해보게 되면 내용은 어차피 블로그에 올려드리는 거니까 그거 참조를 해주셔도 될 것 같고요. 277달러가 됐고요. 지금은 상승을 하고 조정을 받는데 전 고점에서 반등이 맞고요. 그 다음에 조정을 받게 되면 277달러 부근까지 조정 가능성이 있기 때문에 287달러 이탈하게 되면 뭐 리스크 차원으로 비중 축소하고 277달러에서 다시 매수를 하면서 끌고 가는 것도 하나의 방법이다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 그 다음에 필립 모리스랑 알트리아 얘기가 좀 나왔는데 필립 모리스는 괜찮다라고 얘기를 하고 있는데 알트리아는 밸류에이션이 부담스럽다라고 얘기를 하고 있거든요. 그냥 제 관점에서는 둘 다 부담스럽다라고 볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 저점을 쭉 연결을 해보게 되면 이런 흐름이 나오죠. 간혹 가다가 어떤 분들은 저한테 물어보시는 게 뭐냐면 아니 아래 꼬리까지 왜 표시를 안 합니까? 라는 질문을 가끔 하실 때가 있는데 근데 그게 의미 없을 때가 있어요. 의미 없을 때가 있기 때문에 이 추세로만 보셔도 충분할 것이다 라고 생각을 하고 있고요. 지금 저는 통신 관련주는 굉장히 좀 긍정적으로 보고 있습니다. 이게 왜 그러냐면 이번 달에 주파수 경매에 대한 이슈가 좀 있을 거거든요. 그렇기 때문에 T모바일이라든가 버라이전 같은 경우 여기에 뭐 보통 참가를 하겠죠. 참가를 할 가능성이 굉장히 높고요. 무조건 참가할 겁니다. 가능성보다는. 그런데 여기에서 지금 5G, 6G인데 결국은 6G를 좀 선점을 해야 돼요. 그게 아니면 뭐 그렇게 큰 수익을 내기는 쉽지는 않습니다. 다만 이제 6G 그 800MHz로 알고 있는데요. 여기 주파수를 경매를 통해서 받게 되면 초반에는 돈이 좀 많이 들어갈 가능성이 있죠. 어쩔 수 없습니다. 그렇기 때문에 그 이슈가 하나가 있고, 다만 이제 승자의 저주가 될 수도 있다라는 것도 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 뭐 개인적으로는 조정을 받으면 220달러 부근이 매수 타이밍으로 생각을 좀 하시면 될 것 같고요. 손절가는 210달러로 잡고 대응을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 근데 만약에 지금 제가 언급해드렸던 가격이 지지선인데 이 지지에서 반등이 나오게 되면 그거는 당연히 매수 타이밍이다라고 생각을 하셔야 돼요. 항상 매수와 매도는 공존에 있다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 더 좋을 것 같습니다. 자, 그 다음에 스타벅스는 중국 사업 매각에 대한 얘기를 하고 있는데 지분을 좀 나눠 갖는 구조가 될 가능성이 높다라고 얘기가 좀 나오고 있고요. 뭐 이런 이슈로 인해서 상승을 좀 하고 있는 모습입니다. 실적 보게 되면 올해가 작년보다 좀 떨어지네요. 내년부터 뭐 그래도 턴어라운드가 진행이 될 가능성이 있고요. 2분기 실적은 좀 좋아지네요. 아무래도 뭐 추울 때보다는 더울 때 음료 판매가 더 많이 이루어지는 법이기 때문에 103달러까지는 상승 여력이 있다라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그 다음에 블룸에너지에 대한 내용도 BBB 수혜주로 얘기를 좀 하고 있는데 주가를 확인해 보게 되면 30달러 부근까지는 상승 여력이 있다라고 저는 개인적으로 생각을 하고 있고요. 블룸에너지 실적을 확인해 보게 되면 올해 흑자 전환이 되는 걸 확인해 볼 수가 있을 것 같습니다. 다만 3분기부터 흑자 전환이 될 가능성이 높다라고 보고 있고요. 지금은 뭐 들고 가셔도 무난할 것 같고요. 37달러까지는 상승 여력이 있다라고 보고 있습니다. 그 다음에 보잉도 뭐 60대를 인도했다라고 얘기를 하면서 긍정적인 뉴스가 나왔다라고 보시면 될 것 같습니다. 이전에 저항으로 형성되었던 저항이 한 220달러 부근이었는데 뭐 이거 돌파를 했죠. 그러면 상승 추세는 지속이 된다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고, 제가 앞서 어떤 얘기를 해드렸냐면 지지선 부근이 이탈을 하게 되면 현금화를 일부 하는 것도 괜찮다라고 얘기를 했는데 만약에 반등 나오면 매수 타이밍이라고 얘기를 했잖아요. 이게 그 내용인 거예요. 그래서 조정을 받으면 지지 저항이 존재를 하고 있지만 양봉이 나오게 되면서 주가가 상승을 하게 되면서 10% 정도 수익이 났다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같고요. 소파이 이거 되게 좋은 것 같아요. 간접펀드. 근데 주가가 워낙 높아서 덤비기가 좀 무섭습니다. 저는 돈 있으면 할 것 같아요. 최소 투자 금액이 10달러라고 얘기를 하게 되는데 우리가 뭐 알고 있는 뭐 X나 이런데 오픈 AI 언제 상장을 할지는 모르겠지만 이런 쪽 투자는 상당히 저는 긍정적이다라고 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그 다음에 AES 브룩필드 SM 매니지먼트와 블랙록이 AES 인수를 검토 중이다라고 얘기를 하게 되면서 오늘 급등을 하는 모습이고요. 참고로 AES는 실적이 굉장히 좀 좋은 종목으로 알고 있습니다. 실적이 좋을 거예요 아마. 그쵸? 사상 최대의 당기순위. 분기로 보게 되면 에비타는 조금 뭐 2분기에 줄어드는 모습을 보여주고 있는데 이게 실적이랑 EPS를 좀 생각을 해봐야 될 것 같습니다. 근데 EPS가 이렇게 떨어졌다라고 얘기를 하는 건 결국은 주식수를 늘렸다라는 것밖에 안 되거든요. 그래서 순이익이 늘어났음에도 불구하고 EPS가 줄어들었다라는 건 주식수가 늘어났다 이 개념으로 보시면 될 것 같은데 분기 실적으로 1분기 실적이 안 좋습니다만 2분기부터는 EPS가 늘어나는 모습 보여주었을 때 실적이 긍정적이다라고 볼 수가 있는 거죠. 부채를 포함한 총 기업 가치가 400억 달러로 추산이 되고 있고요. 인수시에는 역사상 가장 큰 차입 매수 중 하나가 될 것이다라는 평가 있다라는 것도 기억을 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그다음에 브로드컴에 대한 얘기는 제가 앞서 해드렸던 걸로 알고 있고요. 유나이티드 헬스케어 법무부에 대한 문제가 있죠. 수사 진행되고 있다라는 것 때문에 주가가 소폭 하락하고 있습니다. 워낙 큰 폭으로 하락을 했었고 이 내용은 알고 있었잖아요, 그렇죠? 더 이상 악재로 작용을 하고 있지는 않은데 저는 언젠가는 회복되겠지 생각을 해보게 되면 330달러 정도는 저는 매수를 할 것 같아요. 횡보를 하다가 돌파하는 시점에서 저는 언젠가 되겠지, 600달러 한번 가겠지, 2, 3년 들고 있으면 가겠지, 이 마인드로 보고는 저는 괜찮다 이렇게 생각을 하고 있습니다. 그 다음에 베로나파마는 머크 인수에 대한 얘기 때문에 주가가 상승을 하고 있는 모습인데 주가 되게 높네요, 그렇죠? 그 다음에 WPP 2분기 실적이 안 좋다라는 것 때문에 16% 하락을 하고 있고요. 그 다음에 솔라엣지 태양광 원래 안 좋으니까 이렇게 움직이고 있습니다. 그래도 하락 출발해서 소폭 반등은 나오고 있다라는 걸 확인을 해볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 시장을 한 번 더 확인을 좀 해보도록 하겠습니다. 미니 선물 나스닥 상승하는 거 보니까 관련된 종목들 역시 반등이 나오고 있다라고 보시면 될 것 같고요. 애플은 앞서서 아이폰 판매에 대한 내용이 나왔잖아요. 그러다 보니까 소폭 약세가 이어지고 있는 것으로 풀이가 되고 있습니다. 그 외에 M7 관련주 긍정적이다라고 볼 수가 있을 것 같고요. 오라클 긍정적인 리포트 나왔죠. 그 다음에 TSMC도 실적 괜찮다라고 보고 있습니다. 온 세미컨덕트가 1%대 약세가 이어지고 있는 모습이고요. 전기차 완성차 긍정적으로 움직이고 있습니다. 그 다음에 항공 여행 레저 또 상승하네요. 중국 관련주가 약세가 이어지고 있는 가운데 금융주가 어제 그래도 좀 하락했거든요. 제가 알기로 지역은행이 더 낫다라는 얘기 때문에 하락을 했는데 오늘은 반사적으로 올라오고 있는 모습 보여주고 있고, 오늘 암호화폐 지금 관세에 대한 내용 때문에 눈치 보기 장세가 좀 이어지고 있는 것 같은데 오늘은 1, 2%대 상승을 하고 있는 모습이고요. 이 양자암호와 함께 암호화폐는 같이 봐야겠죠. 이 양자암호도 상승을 하고 있는 모습 보여주고 있습니다. 아르기 퀀텀도 얘기가 좀 나왔을 것 같은데 제가 방송을 하는 바람에 이거 체크하기는 쉽지는 않았고요. 어제 조정을 받았던 금 관련주 오늘은 혼조세가 이어지고 있는 모습이고, 전통에너지 어제 엑슨모빌을 올라갔죠. 그 이유는 신재생에너지가 떨어지게 되면서 반사이익으로 올라갔다라고 보고 있는데 어제 나온 뉴스만 확인해 보게 되면 엑슨모빌 2분기 실적 안 좋을 것 같아요 라고 얘기를 하고 있죠. 그렇다라고 하는 건 전통에너지 전반적으로 2분기가 실적이 안 좋을 가능성이 있다라는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그 다음에 신재생에너지는 아까 언급을 해드렸던 블롬 에너지와 플러그 파워 상승을 하고 있는 모습이고, 인페이지 에너지는 중국 이슈, 그 다음에 BBB 악재가 있는 종목으로서 하락하고 있는 모습입니다. 제약바이오, 힘센허스 일부 상승을 하고 있는 모습이고요. 그 다음에 스타벅스 아까 언급을 해드렸던 내용이다라고 생각을 하시면 될 것 같습니다. 캐터필러, 허니웰, 보잉 이 내용 다 나왔고요. 방산주가 강보합의 움직임을 보여주고 있고요. 드론 UAM, 우주항공도 역시 강보합의 흐름을 보여주고 있다는 거 참고를 해주시면 좋을 것 같습니다. 그리고 하나 정도 제가 관심 있는 종목을 하나 말씀을 좀 해드릴게요. 매일 들어오신 분들은 한 번쯤은 들어보셨을 만한 종목이다라고 생각을 하고는 있는데, 그 종목이 뭐냐면 이거예요, 이거. CRL. CRL 같은 경우는 실적이 좋아요. 기준은 실적입니다. 기준은 실적. 그리고 추세의 흐름, 주가의 위치, 뭐 이런 거를 다 파악을 좀 해봐야겠죠. 순이익이 25달러에서 참고로 2,500만 달러입니다. 92로 하면은 거의 250% 정도 상승을 하고 있는 거고요. 2023년이 1,000달러에서 3,100만 달러. 그렇죠? 근데 주가는 밀려 있어요. 그래서 뭐 장기적으로는 260달러까지 상승 여력이 있고, 오늘 단기적인 저항을 돌파를 하게 되면서 상승 추세가 이어지고 있기 때문에 뭐 중장 3분기, 2분기 실적까지 생각을 해보게 되면 이 종목 나쁘지는 않다라고 생각을 하고 있고요. 지금 합산으로 보게 되면 25, 90, 92 이렇게 보면 한 200 정도 되는 거죠. 그러면 4분기 정도에는 100 정도 나온다는 얘기인 거거든요. 그러면 이거는 실적이 더 좋아지는데 4분기에 뭐 어닝 쇼크로 하락을 했다라고 하더라도 중장기적으로 말씀을 해드렸던 260달러까지는 상승 여력이 있기 때문에 말씀을 좀 드렸습니다. 이거 저는 괜찮다라고 보고 있으니까 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같고, 뉴엘 브랜즈는 아직 아니네요. 6.2달러 정도가 돼야지 상승 전환이 하고 저항도 돌파를 하고, 요거는 좀 아니네요. 뭐 말씀드릴 만한 내용에 대해서는 다 말씀을 드렸어요. 지금까지 나온 뉴스는 다 언급을 해드렸으니까 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같고요. 10분만 쉴게요. 10분 쉬고 11시부터 혹시 뭐 궁금한 내용 있으시면 제가 뭐 그에 대한 언급해 드리도록 할 테니까 참고해 주시면 좋을 것 같습니다.
Company divested these products in 1998, Corning's name still resonates with these brands.
Corning, over the years, has transitioned from many different products. It's a company that has constantly evolved depending on where glass is needed the most.
Through the rest of the 20th century, it manufactured glass for everything from television sets to the windows in every manned American spacecraft mission, from the Mercury program to the space shuttle. It even created a ceramic filter that can catch pollutants before they escape a car's exhaust pipe, which would become a worldwide standard to help cut down on car emissions. Then, Corning got into the communications space.
So in the 1960s, Charles Kao published a paper that said if a sufficiently clear optical pipe was invented, the laser could be used to send information down that pipe and overcome the bottlenecks that copper offered for communications.
In the 1970s, the company invented the first low-loss fiber optic wire, which used glass instead of copper. The wire was capable of carrying 65,000 times more information than traditional copper wire. Corning has been a public company since 1945. The stock has been steady for decades, but then took off when the dot-com boom created huge demand for its super-fast fiber optic cable. It plummeted to an all-time low when the dot-com bubble burst. In 2007, it introduced a bendable glass fiber, allowing it to reach places like high-rises in major cities. And since 2008, the stock has maintained a slow, steady climb upward. Today, Corning is no longer described simply as a glass maker. but as a technology company that makes specialty materials for industrial and scientific applications. It manufactures products at 108 plants in 15 countries and employs 51,000 people.
Corning's changed as a company many, many times over the years that it's been in existence. It just kind of ebbs and flows depending on the demand for the end products that Corning supplies these glass products into.
The company reports revenue in 5 business segments, with fiber being the largest at 37%.
You know, it started out as a technology you needed for submarine transmission, super long distances, then moved to long haul on land, then into metro areas. Now we're seeing fiber to the home, the rollout of fiber for 5G networks, and tremendous use of optical communications in data centers.
Verizon recently agreed to purchase 12.4 million miles of optical fiber from Corning to grow its 5G network, at a minimum cost of $1.05 billion. This increase in demand forced Corning to expand its fiber production capacity.
We're also announcing that we are expanding the world's largest and lowest cost fiber optic plant right in North Carolina, adding another $250 million to the $2 billion we've got invested today.
Another big part of Corning's business is display glass, which made up 29% of its sales in 2018. Corning LCD glass is used on TVs, laptops, computer monitors, and tablets.
Corning's gone through a lot of evolutions over the last several decades. Fiber and telecommunications were one of the primary drivers in the late 90s and early aughts. And then, around 2003, 2004, they built this sizable display glass business. As LCD TVs became the dominant TV, that segment had become the biggest. Over the last 18 months, telecommunications has regrown to become the biggest segment.
Many attribute Corning's success to its manufacturing techniques. It created fusion forming in 1964. It involves lava-hot glass flowing down 7 stories in mid-air into one long sheet, which is then cut into whatever shape and size that customers need. The process has not been seen by many outside of Corning.
But what we're going to do is get rid of all these buttons and just make a giant screen.
Then in 2007, about 6 months before the first iPhone was released, Steve Jobs made a call to the CEO of Corning and asked the company to create glass that could withstand scratches and breakage for a new Apple product. Corning quickly developed Gorilla Glass, and it's been used on every iPhone since.
So, Mr. Weeks, how many screens are you making for the iPhone 8?
I do not speak at all about what goes on with Apple.
In 2017, Apple announced it would invest $200 million into Corning R&D, a move analysts saw as a plan to add glass to the back of iPhones for wireless charging. Sure enough, it now offers iPhones with glass on the front and the back. But Gorilla Glass isn't just on Apple products. It's also used by Samsung, Nokia, Google, Motorola, and LG, among others. Corning says Gorilla Glass has been installed on 6 billion devices since its debut in 2007.
So Gorilla Glass is important to Corning. It's about 12% of their overall revenue, but that compares to 39% for the optical communications segment and 27% for the display glass segment. So it's not as big as those two segments, but it is more profitable than average. So it maybe represents 15% or so of gross profits for Corning.
And what's interesting about Gorilla is the innovation that went into making Gorilla has actually allowed it to go into other potential markets like automotive. And so it's really been able to become a primary form factor for multiple markets, all starting with the little innovation in the 80s and really brought to market with the iPhone.
As smartphones and fiber optics continue to evolve, so must Corning. It spent 15% more on R&D in 2018 than it did the previous year. The company already makes flexible glass for TVs and cars, but it recently announced it's working on a new flexible glass product, which hints that Apple may be working on a foldable phone. Samsung and Huawei recently unveiled their foldable phones, but with plastic-based displays. Samsung announced it would delay the release of the Galaxy Fold after demo units malfunctioned.
I think the real question is how we come out with a glass that's optimized for the flexibility and performance needed in a foldable phone. We think that we'll be able to deliver within a couple years.
Corning also makes glassware for labs in the pharmaceutical industry. These represent Corning's smaller revenue segments. In 2017, it announced that it was collaborating with Merck and Pfizer on a new damage-resistant glass for medical products made in the U.S. It's called Valor.
These three companies are announcing that pharmaceutical glass packaging will now be made in America. That's a big step. That's a big statement.
Corning's headquarters are still located in Corning, New York, about 4 hours from Manhattan. A majority of the town's residents work at Corning. The company town is one of the last of its kind. In fact, it still operates a work whistle 8 times a day to let its workers know when to wake, get to work, take lunch, and go home. It says people are drawn to work for Corning because it continues to innovate even after 168 years, as the need for glass demand weakens in some areas and grows in others.
Units, whether it's TVs, PCs, monitors, phones, tablets, none of those end markets are growing on a unit basis. So for Corning, they need to do two things. One is hope that people buy bigger devices. And so far, that's what they've been doing. Phones have expanded in size. TVs are expanding 2 to 3 inches a year. And so that's driving the overall opportunity for Corning, because they don't look at units, they look at area. And so as long as area grows, Corning will grow.
The company made $11 billion in revenue in 2018, despite slow growth in TVs, tablets, and smartphones.
Right now, it has a lot of exposure to display glass. So what we've seen historically, if we roll the clock back a few years, is when TV demand is weak, maybe around 2007, 2008 in the financial crisis, then we saw Corning weak as a result of that. So that's an example of where the stock hasn't done so well. On the other hand, right now we see a lot of growth in optical communications the last several years, and that positive growth in optical communications has been a good driver for the company.
Corning has a specific strategy for long-term growth called the 3-4-5 approach.
We divide our focus up into 3 categories. The 3 core technologies: ceramics, optical physics, and glass science. There are the 4 proprietary manufacturing platforms. And then we combine that 3 and our 4 to go after 5 primary markets. 80% of the opportunities that we pursue need to use capabilities in at least 2 of the 3 categories that I just outlined. And then we repurpose and we reapply our capabilities within each of those to go after the next opportunity. We scale those up and we improve the strength of our manufacturing advantages, and that cycle repeats and repeats and repeats.
But what about competition? It's hard to compete with Corning's entire spectrum of products, but it does have competitors within different business segments.
Corning, I would argue, doesn't have any pure competitors. You have to go segment by segment. So if you think about the glass segment, there's multiple large Asian glass suppliers. However, Corning has a tremendous advantage on manufacturing and so forth. And so most of the competitors in the Asian market tend to play fair and nicely with Corning. And so Corning's been able to maintain share, pricing, and so forth over the decades in the glass business.
The same thinking applies to the company's outlook. Even if one segment doesn't do well, it still has 4 others that could help grow revenue.
They're highly exposed to display glass and TVs. Well, we see that young people watch shows more on iPads and phones than they do on big TVs, so that might reduce the demand for global glass over time, even though we haven't really seen that happening yet. But then again, you know, on the positive side, the company has exposure to all kinds of new product opportunities, like self-driving cars are going to have a lot of display glass, we think, inside of them.
Chances are you own at least one device that has Corning glass in it. A TV, a smartphone, a tablet, your car. Even if you don't see it, Corning fiber optic cable runs much of our telecommunications and is poised to grow even more.
So for connected cars, you think about the connection between the occupants or between the car and the rest of the world. I think 5G plays a big role here. And I think because those communications are going to be important wherever you take your car, you're likely to see over time 5G deployments move outside large cities and along highways and into rural areas, so that always-on network is available to passengers. So there are a variety of technical challenges. Right now, we have so many opportunities that we go after that we have to think hard about which are most attractive for us and our shareholders over time, and it makes it a really exciting time.
We're almost kind of a little bit of almost a lifestyle brand, if you will. You come in and it's an experience.
Are you worried about what's in a chicken nugget?
Yes, sometimes.
No, I don't, but I highly doubt it's top chicken.
Pink slime.
Reality TV series happening in real time with real companies and real dollars and real delicious food at stake.
It's 2 pieces of bread, a piece of fried chicken, dill pickles, and a squirt of mayo. Who would have thought such a humble sandwich could set off a fast food war? In fast food, Chick-fil-A has long dominated the chicken sandwich. This simple sandwich is part of what propelled Chick-fil-A to its spot as the 3rd biggest fast food chain in the US, despite being closed on Sundays. Chick-fil-A's race to the top has scared even McDonald's, whose US franchisees asked corporate to develop a worthy competitor to Chick-fil-A's sandwich. In the summer of 2019, a formidable opponent to Chick-fil-A emerged, and it wasn't McDonald's. Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen introduced its crispy chicken sandwich, and conflict started to brew. The sandwich challenged Chick-fil-A's dominance in the chicken sandwich category, and fast food's biggest names got into the battle. Popeyes sold out of the chicken sandwich in about 2 weeks. During that time, analysts say other chicken chains, including Chick-fil-A, lost customers to Popeyes. Americans are ordering and eating more chicken now than ever before. In a highly competitive industry like fast food, brands are racing to stake their claim. Chains that have long relied on chicken, like Chick-fil-A and Popeyes, are in prime position for victory. Others, like hamburger-focused McDonald's, have missed out on dollars spent by chicken-hungry fans. One thing is clear: fast food customers want chicken sandwiches, and the trend doesn't seem to be slowing. Now the big chains are duking it out to deliver, despite supply chain issues and fierce competition. Part of Chick-fil-A's brand messaging has been that it didn't invent the chicken, just the chicken sandwich. But American Studies professor Psyche Williams-Forson says people have been eating this type of sandwich as long as they've been eating bread and poultry.
There's evidence that lots of early colonial households who could afford the ingredients to make bread and would have any kind of bird would eat bread and bird together. How they did that, it's not necessarily known. And of course, on through the centuries, we end up with what we know to be the sandwich, and the chicken sandwich at that.
And competition around the chicken sandwich isn't exactly new either. Ebony magazine searched Black newspaper archives and found ads for the chicken sandwich going back to as early as 1936. Chick-fil-A's founder S. Truett Cathy invented the chain's original chicken sandwich in 1964. That sandwich was made of a boneless chicken breast, breaded and fried in peanut oil, and served on a toasted buttered bun with pickles. The first Chick-fil-A opened in 1967, and the chain has been closed on Sundays since then. Despite that, Chick-fil-A is the 3rd biggest restaurant chain in the U.S. by system-wide sales, and reported more than $10 billion in revenue in 2018. For comparison, Popeyes pulled in $3.7 billion in sales in 2018, making it the 25th largest U.S. chain. When Popeye's parent company Restaurant Brands International quietly discussed a new menu item in its May 2019 Investor Day, it didn't know that the product's launch would cause such a frenzy. It was the first time in its nearly 50-year history that Popeyes offered a chicken sandwich that was available nationwide. In the past, its menu tended to focus more on bone-in products. This sandwich is a white meat breast fillet, hand-battered and breaded in a buttermilk coating, served on a brioche bun. There's one version with regular mayonnaise and another with spicy mayo. Popeyes rolled out its sandwich on August 12, 2019. 1 week later, this sandwich set off a virtual confrontation between some of the biggest names in fast food. Chick-fil-A tweeted an equation suggesting that its sandwich was the original and the best. Popeyes had a simple but pointed response to Chick-fil-A. Y'all good? Their check-in prompted other chicken brands to get into the conversation. Soon, Wendy's and Shake Shack jumped into the Twitter feud too.
This is what people love to see. They love to see kind of folks going at it and in a fun and competitive way, of course. But this is the reality TV series happening in real time with real companies and real dollars and real delicious food at stake.
Those tweets set off a social media firestorm, and nearly doubled Popeye's Twitter followers from 100,000 to 180,000. A marketing group estimated that Popeyes received over $65.1 million in equivalent advertising value from media mentions between August 12th and August 27th. The sandwich's impact was bigger than just raising Popeye's profile with consumers. It was also a boon to Popeye's bottom line. Thanks in part to the chicken sandwich, sales at stores open more than a year grew by 9.7% in the third quarter of 2019, compared to 0.5% growth in Q3 of 2018. One analyst estimated that Popeyes sold about 1,000 chicken sandwiches a day, and that the sandwich accounted for about 30% of sales, while it was available, at least. After about 2 weeks with the chicken sandwich on the menu, Popeyes around the country started selling out. It simply ran out of chicken fillets. Fans started posting pictures of handwritten sold-out signs on Popeyes doors and drive-thru menus. Popeyes was even hit with a lawsuit by an angry customer for selling out of the sandwich.
I said that you saw Popeye's market share more than double, and then you did see a dip in foot traffic share at Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's. You know, the actual infamous "y'all good" tweet happened just as Wendy's was launching their spicy chicken sandwich, and just as Burger King was launching the Impossible Whopper nationally. So it sort of took the steam out of those promotions for a few short days.
But the positive impact of Popeye's sandwich wasn't limited to just that chain. The third quarter is the most important part of the year for fast food companies because it includes the summer months, a crucial selling season.
It was a very successful third quarter for fast food in general. I think it was probably the fastest sales growth in several years.
And the chicken sandwich has some responsibility for that sector-wide growth. Hype around Popeye's national release of its chicken sandwich actually benefited its competitors. Chicken-focused fast food restaurants like KFC and Chick-fil-A saw traffic spike in late August 2019. Over a typical summer weekend, Popeyes, Chick-fil-A, Zaxby's, and KFC would get about 8.3 million visitors, according to foot traffic's analytics platform Placer AI. But at the peak of the chicken sandwich war, the chains had 10.1 million visitors over a weekend. And now, Popeyes has brought its sandwich back. Its nationwide launch on November 3rd, 2019, saw huge crowds. Traffic at Popeyes that day rose almost 300% higher than normal. One analyst estimated that busy Popeyes locations sold up to 1,500 chicken sandwiches per store every day for the first 10 days the sandwich was back, effectively doubling sales volume at those stores. And Popeyes competitors are racing to keep up. In July 2019, McDonald's U.S. franchisees asked the company to add a Southern-style chicken sandwich to rival Chick-fil-A's. Franchisees said McNuggets and McChicken sandwiches weren't enough to compete in the premium chicken sandwich category. On an earnings call, McDonald's said it missed out on some business in chicken. In December 2019, McDonald's started testing a crispy chicken sandwich, officially entering the chicken sandwich wars.
Well, they said on their conference call that they actually lost share in the chicken segment, but they gained share of the burger segment. So clearly, this is an issue for them that they're looking to correct. The franchisees have been asking for a premium chicken sandwich for some time. You know, the sandwich isn't likely to be hand battered and hand breaded the way it is at Popeyes. So McDonald's will have to find a way to win on their core advantages, which is speed, convenience, and value.
The war is far from over, and if I were to make a longer-term prediction, I would not predict that Chick-fil-A would be a loser in that chicken war overall. There's so much momentum behind the growth of that company and so much brand equity that it just resonates with consumers, young, old, and everywhere in between in a lot of ways.
For decades, hamburgers have been Americans' sandwich of choice on fast food menus. Now chicken sandwiches are stealing some of the spotlight. Chicken sandwiches remain number 2, but they are gaining ground with consumers faster than burgers are, according to market research firm NPD Group. For the year ended February 2019, 4 billion chicken sandwich servings were ordered at U.S. restaurants. During the same time period, burgers were more popular, with 8.6 billion ordered. But chicken sandwich orders were up 4%, while burger orders stayed flat. On average, diners still purchase burgers more frequently than they purchase chicken sandwiches. But burger makers shouldn't rest too easy. In general, chicken consumption is on the rise. From 1960 to 2018, per capita chicken consumption has risen 235% to 93.8 pounds a year. During the same time period, per capita consumption of beef has fallen 9.6%. 1991 was the last year people ate more beef than chicken. In 2018, Americans ate about 94 pounds of chicken compared to 57 pounds of beef.
That's a pretty dramatic difference in that, and that's a reversal from 40, 50 years ago. This was not always the case, and it goes to show what technological progress and changes in consumption habits, those combination of factors can do to change our diets.
Analysts point to three main factors that have contributed to higher chicken consumption: health concerns, technological advances, and a growing population. The National Institutes of Health and the World Health Organization have linked red meat consumption to heart disease and cancer. Some have pointed to white meat, like chicken and fish, as a healthier alternative. Technological advances have also made it possible to produce larger chickens more quickly, and the price of chicken has fallen in recent years.
If you look at what's happened to the price of chicken relative to, say, beef, it's fallen by about 45% over the last 20 years. So today, chicken is about a third of the price of beef at the retail level. Similar things happen for pork. So today, chicken is about half the price of pork.
But in the chicken sandwich war, not all chicken is created equal. Some pieces are better for sandwiches than others. Most fast food chains rely on breast meat for its sandwiches, which is typically more expensive than chicken wings or thighs. Fast food restaurants have offered chicken items for years, but analysts say this social media feud attracted a new generation of consumers.
Certainly the generation that follows social media that might go into a fast casual restaurant, maybe your Chipotle consumer, your Shake Shack consumer, doesn't really look to traditional fast food as having a high quality, up-leveled experience. And so by having a product that is of that, that rivals the Chicken Shack, will bring in a generation that's probably never eaten a Big Mac before.
Burger orders may be flat, but despite attracting a new audience, analysts don't think chicken sandwiches will pull ahead of burgers anytime soon. If you grew up in the United States in the last 70 years, chances are you've had a chicken nugget. Whether your nuggets came in a McDonald's box or from the freezer aisle, chicken nuggets have long been a staple for American families. But have you ever eaten one cooked from scratch at home? We did an experiment inspired by celebrity chef Jamie Oliver. If people saw how chicken nuggets were made, would they still want to eat them?
Do you know what's in a chicken nugget?
No.
Are you worried about what's in a chicken nugget?
Yes, I am sometimes.
No, I don't, but I highly doubt it's top chicken.
Pink slime. No, that's why I don't eat them very often, because it's I would think it's like mystery meat.
I know it's like just a bunch of chicken cut up and different, like maybe bones are in there.
We acknowledge the makeup of chicken nuggets is questionable. The treat's history has been marred by bad press, yet Americans ate 2.3 billion servings of them in restaurants last year. However, demand for chicken nuggets at fast food outlets and restaurants has stagnated. Experts say that's because the chicken nugget isn't a huge profit driver, and restaurants aren't likely to innovate around them. Restaurants only have so much room on their menu, and, as a low-cost item, nuggets aren't a big moneymaker. Customers expect to be able to buy large quantities of nuggets at super low prices. And the future doesn't look better for chicken nuggets growth. Their menu penetration is expected to drop by 5.4% in the next 4 years. Over the past 10 years, nuggets have dropped off the kids' menu by 10%, while chicken tenders have increased by 25%. So why is demand for nuggets flatlining? First, we have to understand what made them so popular in the first place. Today, we can't help but associate chicken nuggets with McDonald's, famous for selling large McNugget portions at low prices. Credit for inventing chicken nuggets often goes to the Golden Arches. But it turns out you have a scientist to thank for your chicken nugget creations. McDonald's introduced chicken nuggets in 1983, years after a researcher had laid the groundwork for them. In the 1950s, a professor at Cornell University invented a variety of processed chicken products, including chicken hot dogs and chicken nuggets, to convince Americans to eat more chicken. His work was for scientific research, not commercial products, and he didn't expect chicken nuggets to take off. When the chicken nugget came out in the 1950s, they weren't too popular, he said. After World War II, processed foods were seen as safer and more reliable. Food processing methods were developed during the wars to make sure soldiers on the front lines were fed. After the war, companies had to find another market for their new technology.
Attitude toward
food processing has changed dramatically in the past 30, 40 years, maybe. When it was first introduced, people saw it as being sanitary because human hands weren't, touching the food. They saw it as efficient because you could get food directly from the field into a can or frozen, and that was supposedly, going to lock in the flavor.
In 1983, after the government recommended people eat less red meat, McDonald's introduced the battered and fried chicken nugget. Its McNugget Mania ad campaign cast the nugget as a cheap, delicious snack to share.
You can't resist them. Moms love them. Kids crunch them. Dad brings them home for the family.
Chicken nuggets became popular because they were inexpensive, uniform, and easy to eat. Regardless of whether your nugget comes from the drive-in or the frozen section, you usually know what to expect. People love to eat food with their hands, a trend Abala calls nuggetization. Nuggetization also hides the origin of the food. When you eat a chicken nugget, you really don't know what it is. The fact that nuggets don't look like an animal makes them more popular. Most people don't want to be reminded that their food used to moo or cluck. It's not for ethical reasons or because people are eating less meat. We're simply just squeamish. McDonald's released its nuggets with 3 signature sauces: barbecue, sweet sour, and hot mustard. The product development director thought a variety of dipping flavors would make McNuggets more appealing to customers. They were right. Customers love nuggetized, easily dippable foods because sauce adds another layer of customization to your order. We've been eating chicken nuggets for years, but 3 main factors are working against them: health concerns, bad press, and new competition. Consumer attitudes about health are changing. Processed foods are falling out of favor as consumers look for more natural alternatives.
Very broadly across all consumers is what we call the pursuit of purity in our food, which is to say we're looking for food that's real, food that's authentic, food that's minimally processed.
In 2010, reports of chicken nuggets made from pink goop swept the internet. A photo rumored to have been taken inside a plant making food for McDonald's surfaced, and people said it showed mechanically separated chicken, a product made by forcing bones with edible tissue attached through a sieve. Edible tissue includes whatever's left on the bone, including blood vessels, cartilage, and skin. McDonald's said the photo doesn't show how it makes nuggets. Due to changing consumer preferences, it switched to using 100% white meat in nuggets in 2003. While McDonald's promises to use 100% white meat, it doesn't state what percentage of the nugget is meat. In response to the pink goop photo, McDonald's released a video from a McNuggets supplier in Canada. The video shows employees making a paste from chicken breast and skin that will become nuggets. McDonald's didn't respond to requests to comment for this video, but their earnings call show consumers liked the switch to white meat. There isn't much regulation about what can and cannot be in a nugget. Go to any frozen food aisle and you'll find gluten-free chicken nuggets, breast meat chicken nuggets, and even veggie nuggets. Here's how the U.S. Department of Agriculture defines nuggets. Nuggets are irregularly shaped, usually bite-sized meat and or poultry products, which are usually breaded and deep fat fried and intended to be used as finger foods. There are 3 types: solid meat nuggets, ground meat nuggets, and nuggets made from ground meat with additives. The labeling rules are different for all 3, but one rule is constant. Any breaded nugget product can be no more than 30% breading. Nuggets made from solid pieces of meat can be labeled simply as nuggets. The process to make nuggets that are ground meat, like what we made earlier, must be clear on the packaging. For instance, chicken nugget, chopped and formed. Nuggets made from ground meat, with additives like binders or water, can be used to describe a product, but needs more detail. The USDA says breaded, nugget-shaped chicken patties is proper labeling. The USDA's labeling guidelines don't specify just how much meat a nugget must contain. In 2013, researchers from the University of Mississippi studied the composition of 2 nuggets and found that the nuggets contained more fat than meat. The researchers got the nuggets from 2 national food chains but didn't identify which. It's also worth noting that 2 nuggets is a very small sample size. The bad press for nuggets didn't end with this study or with reports of pink goo. A federal judge called McNuggets a McFrankenstein creation in 2003 after a group of teens claimed McDonald's food was making them obese. Earlier this year, some of the country's biggest producers recalled over 120,000 pounds of chicken nuggets. Consumers found bits of plastic or wood in the nuggets or noticed that they were labeled incorrectly. And finally, there's another chicken product kids love: chicken strips. While data found that chicken nugget servings in restaurants were slumping slightly, servings of chicken strips were actually on the rise in 2018 when compared to 2017. Researchers say consumers aren't swapping nuggets for strips, but that the categories appeal to different groups. Families with young children are more likely to purchase nuggets, while adults or families with teens buy more strips. Strips are seen as an upgraded or more wholesome version of chicken nuggets.
There's nothing new or innovative about a chicken strip. It's been around for a long time. But anytime you take something that the American consumer already loves and you innovate around it or you elevate the form in some way, it creates opportunities for growth. So we've seen a lot of people doing this. Everybody from the world's largest restaurant chain, McDonald's, has a premium chicken strip offering now, to regional chains that are springing up like Raising Cane's or Zaxby's.
Tempting consumers to buy a more premium product, like a strip, means a higher margin for restaurants.
The chicken nuggets sort of have their home in fast food. And as parents have gotten more educated about, better quality proteins, and they're trading up more to fast casual restaurants, I think you're seeing more of a tendency for people to move to chicken strips, chicken tenders, which is something that kids really like. And honestly, people of all generations kind of like chicken strips.
A low birth rate could also have something to do with nuggets stagnation. In 2017, the US birth rate hit a 30-year low. Americans aren't having enough babies to replace the population, and population growth increasingly relies on immigration. Data shows that chicken strips show up on restaurant menus more often than chicken nuggets do, with a higher menu penetration of 14.2%. However, over time, chicken strip menu penetration has also declined, and at a faster rate than nuggets, which begs the question, are consumers over them both? Are chicken strips really a threat to chicken nuggets' place at the top of the processed meat food chain? Even though strips are gaining traction, there's no reason nuggets and strips can't thrive together. At restaurants, Americans still ate a whopping 2.3 billion nuggets last year, compared to 1.5 billion strips. So don't worry, nugget lovers. There will still be nuggets to dip.
Chick-fil-A. It's a fast food chain with chicken sandwiches said to be so good, even McDonald's wants to steal them. And it has a reputation so controversial, entire cities have banned the restaurant from their airports. Critics say Chick-fil-A has a history of supporting and donating millions of dollars to anti-LGBTQ organizations, which has drawn the ire of lawmakers and civilians alike.
Chick-fil-A's values are not Chicago values.
But it also has its share of ardent supporters. Whatever you think of the company's politics, Chick-fil-A's sales are on a tear. As of June 2019, it is the third biggest restaurant chain in the US by system-wide sales, and it generates the most sales per store of any fast food restaurant in the country. The ascent is so rapid that even McDonald's and Popeyes are taking note. In July 2019, McDonald's franchise owners demanded the company add a Southern-style chicken sandwich to its menu in order to keep pace with Chick-fil-A. A month later, Popeyes debuted its own chicken sandwich on a buttered roll with pickles, the first to be sold by the chain nationwide. Chick-fil-A is also eating market share from giants in the chicken category, like KFC and Wingstop. So how is it that a restaurant that's ensnared in controversy and closed on Sundays is next in line to overtake Starbucks and McDonald's? It all started in Atlanta, Georgia, where Chick-fil-A's founder, S. Truett Cathy, was raised and where the company is now headquartered. Cathy grew up watching his mother prepare chicken in traditional Southern fashion. In 1926, the 25-year-old and his younger brother cobbled together about $10,000 to open a diner called Dwarf Grill. Legend has it, that's where Cathy invented Chick-fil-A's original chicken sandwich. Fried in peanut oil and served on a bun with pickles, the menu item regularly sold out.
So in 1967, he opened the very first Chick-fil-A in the Greenbrier Mall in Atlanta. From the outset, Kathy implemented a policy still in place to this day. All stores would be closed on Sundays. A devout Christian, he reasoned that Sundays were for spiritual worship. Kathy carried those Christian values with him to Chick-fil-A's flagship store, which featured an upbeat logo of a bright red chicken. Kathy said the A of the company's name represented grade A chicken. He was one of the first to envision putting fast food in malls. And as malls began to grow in popularity, Chick-fil-A was taken along for the ride. Between 1971 and 1974, Chick-fil-A tripled in size, expanding into the rest of Georgia and the Carolinas, and continuing through the South and Southwest. In 1986, Chick-fil-A decided to grow beyond malls by opening its first freestanding restaurant. By 1993, its 500th restaurant had opened. But this pushed it into competition with established chicken-focused fast food chains like KFC, which also opened in the South 15 years before Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A didn't have as much money as those companies to spend on advertising, so it decided to make a splash another way. In 1995, it put up huge billboards on the side of highways in the Southeast. The first billboard featured a pair of cows scrawling "Eat More Chicken" to try to get people to stop eating beef. The campaign went viral, and it worked. In 2000, the privately held company hit $1 billion in sales, doubling its performance from when the billboards first debuted. It also rose to the third largest fast food chain in the chicken category, behind KFC and Popeyes. That was also the year Kathy and his 3 children signed a covenant promising to uphold Chick-fil-A's principles. The agreement included staying closed on Sundays and never taking the company public.
You know, the company culture is very unique and has clearly led to a lot of success. And culture, it's all interlocked. Like, you pull one strand of it and the whole blanket can unravel. And sometimes if a company's public, someone might want to pull at a strand and might not realize, wow, that's the strand that could unravel the whole blanket.
Chick-fil-A's fast-paced growth was also fueled by a few key innovations in its operating structure. Each franchise is owned by an independent operator who usually has just one unit and no other business ventures, a model that's still relatively unique in the fast food business. This allowed franchise owners to be focused on the restaurant and truly connected to the community. Employee makeup is another differentiator for the brand. Chick-fil-A has said that 2/3 of Chick-fil-A employees have grown up working for the company, doing shifts in high school and college, and ultimately returning for a career with Chick-fil-A after graduating. Chick-fil-A is extremely selective of who is even allowed to become an operator. That structure has created a network of experienced franchise owners who are loyal to the brand.
It's the main reason why they're successful, because they have these people that are in the stores every single day. They've gone through a heavy training process. They believe very strongly in the brand, and they are interacting with customers. So they are interacting with the employees. They are interacting with everybody, and it really works for them.
The franchise agreement also allows operators to start restaurants for an extremely low cost. The initial fee is just $10,000. In comparison, the fee at McDonald's is $45,000 and Wendy's is $40,000. Unburdened by the debt of a large initial fee, Chick-fil-A franchisee operators are able to put more of their funds into growing and improving their store. The closed on Sunday policy also applies to the Chick-fil-A's operating in stadiums. Its Mercedes-Benz location even remained closed when the Super Bowl was held there in 2019. Analysts say the policy comes with a hefty price tag.
If you do the math, I think it works out to roughly $1.7 billion in system-wide sales that are lost by being closed on Sundays. Now, again, that's assuming you just open up on Sundays and everything else works normally.
But they also say being closed might actually help the chain provide better service.
Every employee can afford time off no matter how hard they're working Monday through Saturday. And sometimes that rest and relaxation can do a person real good. On top of that, the guests, like, they better get to the Chick-fil-A restaurant before Sunday comes, because if they find the time on Sunday and they have that craving on Sunday and they show up on Sunday, not getting any food from that Chick-fil-A restaurant.
In 2018, there were 2,352 Chick-fil-A's in business, with 234 in malls, 264 on college campuses, and 73 at hospitals, businesses, or airports. The culture of Chick-fil-A today still focuses on the Christian values that Kathy founded the chain on. Outside its Atlanta headquarters, a plaque with Chick-fil-A's mission statement still hangs. Analysts point to the chain's religious backbone as a driving force behind the company's #1 rank in customer service for 4 years, from 2015 to 2019. In a 2018 survey of drive-thrus, Chick-fil-A employees were reported to have smiled 91.4% of the time, while employees of the next highest chain, KFC, smiled 78.5% of the time.
Basically, you're starting to see they're almost kind of a little bit of almost a lifestyle brand, if you will. You come in and it's an experience. From the minute you walk in, you've got that fresh-faced kid who's greets you, thank you. They're polite, they're walking around helping you, etc. It's beyond just a transaction of food. It's an entire experience, and I think you're